Hello, everybody. This is Ruth Ratliff, voice and vibrational sound therapist. And tonight I have with me Kathleen Covalt. And I know Kathleen from a wellness center that we have both presented at. And I was particularly interested in her wonderful presentations on UFO UAPs. And she actually creates and teaches her own courses on a variety of topics, including wellness and intuition and the UFO UAP phenomena. She has a master's in counseling and a doctorate in educational psychology. I have also been very honored to have received readings from her with her own oracle card deck, which is very cool that she has her own deck as well. So she is a very, very interesting person who I am very, very honored to have met and know at this point. So Kathleen, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself, if more than I've said?
Sure. Hi, Ruth. It's really nice to be here. And it's been wonderful to know you and to see all the work that you're doing with the sound. It's so fascinating to me. Vibration is really the essence of who we are, the essence of the world. As a matter of fact, in the Hermetic texts, they say that everything vibrates, everything moves, and it really is the way of the world. And when we understand vibration and we understand frequency, especially now at this particular period of time where people talk about things like ascension, or they talk about the transition that we're going through, it's really important to understand that what many of us have talked about for so long, raising our vibes, getting a good vibe, well, that's really true. It really is important. And there's many ways to do it. And you do a beautiful job of it with the sound. And hopefully that's my purpose, is to raise vibration also with knowledge, with getting people to be able to get in touch with their inner core, to know who they really are, and to reduce stress, and to realize that they truly are this wondrous being. And there's many ways and many paths to actually raise your vibration. It's not just about sitting quietly and meditating, while that is helpful, but there are actually many ways to do it.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yes, you don't have to sit there and go, You can dance and sing and laugh and have a great time.
That's so right. And one
All
of the
sorts of other
things
ways.
that I do is using my background, like you said, in counseling and education, I really synthesize all the different cool theories and things that I've learned, and I bring them into my classes. And one of the theories that I love so much that I was hoping we were going to talk about tonight is the theory of the 8 multiple intelligences by Howard Gardner. And I'm wondering would you like me to tell a little bit about that theory?
Would you please? Yeah, I've never ever heard of this. Not that that means anything, or just that I've never heard of it. And then when I read it, what the premise was, I was very impressed. I thought, my gosh, somebody finally understands that we are not this one-dimensional being with a one-dimensional learning track.
That's so
So,
true.
yes,
That's so
please.
true. When we were young, we would take what was called an IQ test, people of our age, and we would take one test on one day out of our whole life, and we would get one score. And that score was supposed to tell us how intelligent we were. You
And
know,
we made that our truth for the rest of our lives.
yes,
We
yes.
lived into that.
Yes, yes. And so when I first found Howard Gardner's, who is the developer of the theory, is Howard Gardner. He is a Harvard University professor. And what he did is he realized that that was so limiting, and that people who excelled in school had certain types of intelligence. They had word or English or verbal intelligence, they did well. People who had like a mathematic, logical, scientific type intelligence did well. But the people who had, let's call it a body intelligence, he calls it a kinesthetic intelligence, they probably did less well in school. But I grew up the oldest of 8 children. Many of my brothers and sisters are sports players, and I could see that they knew a whole playbook. They knew where to be on the field. They knew where everybody else was supposed to be on the field. They could keep the statistics, but when they got into a classroom and were told to keep still and learn by just looking at something or repeating something over and over, that was not the way they learned. And so many people have suffered because, not because they're not intelligent, but because the school system and how they were taught weren't teaching them the way they learned. So this theory is good for many people to help them understand themselves. And then what I've done is I've sort of applied this theory to help people learn how to relax, how to get in touch with yourself, how to stress, de-stress, and also how to be intuitive. So I can go through the whole theory if you'd like, or if you have any questions, but I love this theory because it empowers us. It's an empowering theory.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. That I never understood that whole thing with the IQ testing, or even the oh my gosh, the testing we took in high school.
Oh, to get into college, like the
Yes.
SATs
SATs,
and
right.
ACTs. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God. See, I've
yeah,
even forgotten the name. I've tried to erase it from my memory.
yeah,
I mean, what does that tell you about a person? It's
yeah,
just your general knowledge, I guess, maybe what you've learned, what you think you've retained from school, but not everybody operates like that.
yeah.
And there are many of us, myself included, who do not test well because we get nervous.
Yes. Oh boy, we could go off on a lot of
Go in
different.
another whole video for
Yes,
that, right? Yeah.
yes, because Ruth, well, two things. I've had many different jobs, and one of which was I was the director of freshmen for college for a certain amount of time. And so we would look at people's SAT scores, and what that did, it did give you an idea of like a baseline. So like, did people have, because people were coming from all over the country, did they have a certain baseline of background education that would be good for college? So there was a place and purpose to it, but it didn't tell you how they learned, anything more about them, but it did have a purpose. But in terms of having anxiety, the other thing I did was when I went for my doctoral program in educational psychology, I had students come up to me and they were trying to decide, like I was teaching at that time too. I had my own students. I was having my own courses there. I was like an adjunct professor. And they would come up to me and they were trying to decide, did they want to go teach at high school or did they want to be an elementary school teacher? And one of the main criteria that helped them decide which way they wanted to go was if they liked math or not. If they liked math, they tended to be a high school teacher because the curriculum had more math in it. And if they didn't like math, they wanted to be an elementary school teacher because they didn't have to take as many math classes. And I thought, this is not good. That means that the teachers who are teaching our youngest people are the people most afraid and uncomfortable with math. And are they going to pass that on to their young students? And so for my doctoral dissertation, what I did is I used guided imagery to reduce math anxiety. And I had people go through visualizing themselves successful, comfortable in an environment with the math test. Because just like you said, you could study, and you would get into the classroom with the test in front of you. And if you are anxious, you freeze up. And then the information that you studied and knew the night before just won't come out. And so I taught them breathing techniques. I taught them how to relax and be aware that this was happening to them in the moment and to visualize themselves successful. And in fact, many of those students did way better at math after the program that I ran with them.
That's fantastic. Because so many, and myself included, yes, I'm not a math person. I like geometry, the pretty shapes. But seriously, yeah, that's fantastic. Oh my gosh. Because they're obviously, math is pretty amazing. Math and music, math and sacred
Yes.
geometry, right? It is useful. My goodness. So that's marvelous. Oh, wow. So yeah, I mean, I could definitely see how in your practice with your clients, you could absolutely use this theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just yeah, if you could just give a little background, just a little description of the theory.
Okay. So what Howard Gardner did is he did a lot of research in a lot of different ways. For instance, savants. Like there's some people who are really, really gifted in certain areas, but not in others. He looked at different parts of the brain tend to be better at some things than others. For instance, if you have a stroke, sometimes you could have a stroke and a piece of your brain is damaged and you won't be able to speak, but you can sing. So he looked at many different ways of figuring out, and he came out with 8 different intelligences. Okay. And I will go over them. He said, like I said, some people are very gifted with math. And some people are very gifted with music, like yourself. Some people are very visual, like me. I am a very visual person. For instance, I will remember a person's face, but not their name. If I'm driving, I'll know to make a left by the tree, but I won't remember the name of the street. So I'm very visual. And by the way, as I just mentioned, I used guided imagery to help my students because I'm really good with internal imagery as well. There's some people who really learn well in a group environment. They get a lot of energy from being in a group and talking about it and processing it with their fellow students. But some people like me, I was very much intrapersonal. So that meant I really like to study alone. Give me a cup of tea. I'm sitting on my bed with a book. I am in heaven. Of course, my husband is in the other room or something. He's always around. But I'm alone in my contemplation. That's for me. I like to study alone. Then there's things like, let's see, we've got math, we've got verbal. Some people are very verbal, and so they will really be good at just listening to something. They like to write. They remember if they write it down. Okay, so that we've got math, we've got verbal, we've got music, we've got intrapersonal like me, we've got the extrovert, which is interpersonal, we've got the body kinesthetic, which is the people who definitely learn with their bodies. Now, these could be sport players, but also I've had students who were into plays. They were actors into theater, and they were struggling. And I said, well, when you have to remember the lines for your play, how do you remember it? And they said, well, when I go over here on the stage and I do this, I
They
remember.
move
When I
the
go here and I do.
blocking.
So yes. And so they're using their bodies again, not as a sports player, but as an actor, actress.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
they're remembering that way. And if
Yes.
you have a list there, did I go over all 8? Is there
I think
one?
naturalist was one.
Oh, that is one. That's really, I kind of think that's for most people. And some people are just really good with understanding the different diversification of nature. This would be a farmer, but it would also be a gardener. It would be a person who loves to hike and understands trees and the natural environment. But in terms of like stress reduction, really, nature is just about good for everybody.
Oh, And I'm assuming that because I'm looking at this going, well, I think I'm several of these. You can have several of the traits, the different types of learning as well in one person.
That is such a key point, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, everybody has all eight, but we have them in different strengths. So everybody has a different profile of what you're strongest in. But you could say everybody has all eight, but some are stronger than others. Now, some are stronger just because you had an environment that helped you along, your education, your parents, so you might be able to be strong in something, but maybe nobody gave you the piano or the guitar when you were young. But if you pick it up now, you might be really good at it, or not, So sometimes it's environment that helps with the strength, and sometimes it's just sort of your natural makeup.
Mm, lovely.
Mhm.
So, can you bridge how you would use these different ways of these different attributes, learning attributes, with helping people with stress and anxiety?
Yes, yes. Well, for me, I have around my home beautiful images. I could call them icons. I have a close affinity with the Blessed Virgin Mary, so I have her images all over the place. I have some other images, and when I look at that icon, I kind of feel connected to that energy, and that will help center me. Again, being very visual. With you, of course, music is probably your favorite way to center yourself and to get into just about any sort of emotional state. I would think music is what really helps you. But I was wondering, if you wouldn't mind, let's figure out what are your other strengths, Ruth, and maybe we can figure out some other good ways for you to calm down and find your center. So are you a reader? Do you like to be outside? What do you feel are some of your other strengths?
Well, definitely naturalist for sure. As a garden, and yeah, I just love the trees. I sing to the trees.
Oh my gosh.
I chant to them whatever organic chanting that comes out. Yeah, when I'm
Oh my
walking.
gosh.
Yeah, in fact, there's a place right up the road here that is, it has some beautiful old trees and this one gorgeous evergreen tree. And I will stop and there's something to do with the land there. There's something special about the land. I can feel it. Who knows? I was told I was a medicine man in one of my previous lives.
Mhm.
But when I do organic sounding, it comes out sounding like Native American Indian. So I'm, hey, nay, I can't, to the trees, I'm talking. And
Right.
it feels so natural. So that's a piece of it with the voice,
Yeah.
music, the
Yeah.
sound, with the naturalist. But something else that I know we were talking about earlier about intuition.
Yes.
At the where I'm at, what I'm doing with my
Mhm.
practice, with the sound therapy, even that walking, I'm following my intuition by
Mhm.
allowing myself to vocalize in that way without judgment. But I'm
Freedom. That
always,
freedom is amazing. Yes. By the way, I believe that trees and nature are conscious, and
yes,
we can communicate with them and they can communicate with us. They don't speak English, but they have a way to in a wholesome way, let's say, to communicate with us, and we can communicate with them. And as I started out by saying, everything's vibration. Different trees have different vibes as well. And so you are picking that up, and their vibrations usually are so strong and so powerful. There's a word that's called resonance. You
yes,
probably know that word
oh
very well,
yes,
right? And so you can be in resonant with different types of music, but you can also be in resonance with the trees, with nature itself. And that healing resonance will help put us in it. And I think it's wonderful that you are communicating with the trees, and let me ask you, do you feel them when you're doing that as well?
I feel, and I'm not sure if it's what I'm feeling myself, but I definitely feel a lot of energy openness in my heart space
Oh,
when
wow.
I'm doing that. It like this morning I was telling them to
Oh,
be strong
wow.
for all of us. It just felt like, things are happening and
Yeah.
just be strong. It's going to be okay. And it just in that other language that I
Yeah.
speak, somebody calls it light language. I don't know if that's what it is, but it's very, yeah, I do feel that there's a presence. I feel, let's just say that I feel their presence. And it's very, and that's what when I was talking about intuition before, that's something that I almost want to be fast tracked, to have more intuition, because it's something that I have doubted,
Mhm.
even though I've had some amazing experiences in my life that were so in my face. How could you possibly doubt at this point? I still have that little niggling, you know, doubt, that disbelief. Not sure what that's from, childhood, who knows, but perhaps that's something that's
I'm
something that
picking
you
something
could
up
help me
right now,
with.
just exactly how you said that. Just even before you did that motion, I was going to suggest this. I'm looking at you. You did this, and I think that was so important because what I was going to suggest is actually a massage.
It's my third eye. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
And so I think
Mm.
that we said which are the other intelligences are going to help you. And so we mentioned music, we mentioned the naturalist, but I'm going to bring in the third, and that is the body kinesthetic, Ruth. I think that that will be a really helpful way if you focus on that to help you open up even more. I mean, you are intuitive, but to help you get to the next level. And I really think that if you at our wellness center, there's so many people who know about the essential oils and things, but I'm thinking some kind of like frankincense, but they will know better than me. I'm not an oil person, but somebody who understands that, and you massage that and really get into your body. Also, when you can just put your hands on your heart and get into your body that way by putting your hand literally on your heart. And so what you're doing is you're using your body to remind you that that's where you want to go, into the deepest part of yourself. I believe actually that the heart chakra, is somehow connected with the third eye that connects us with the divine. I believe there's some kind of link that's very important. And so when I go in, I go here, but it's linked, I believe, to my third eye. So these are the places for you that I think would be really good to literally yourself have just a little massage once in a while. And what other, as I'm talking about using your body, what other things are coming up for you that you think you could use to, again, sort of break away? You're sort of uncrusting, you're sort of like taking off the armor. You're sort of want to get inside to the soft tissue. That's
Mm.
what this is about for you, taking off the armor and getting into the soft spot. What
Mm.
other things could you do that would get you there?
It's interesting you say that, because somebody else who is very intuitive said that I was becoming more, so I because I have in from other incarnations a lot of strength,
Yes.
a lot of power, but that I was trying to find the softness in this lifetime.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting that you picked up
I
on that?
think I agree. And interestingly, what did you do with the tree? You said to the tree, be
Be
strong.
strong, right?
You were telling the tree to be, not asking you for strength, which
That's
I
true.
thought that was so
Yes.
interesting because you already have a sense that you have it,
Mm.
but you were saying to them, be strong.
Hmm.
So now, what thing in nature can you go to? Even the swaying of the tree, perhaps, but
Hmm.
what can you do to bring you that softness in nature and in your body movements? What can you do to just bring up the softness.
Well, I already go outside in my bare feet and
Oh,
I do shaking and I
nice.
kind of do like qigong movements,
I think the soft movement, right?
maybe like a
The
flowy,
flow.
and I do kind of sing-songy sounds with that
Yes,
sometimes.
yes, yes. That's where you
Um,
want to go with it.
Connecting
Yes,
me to the earth, to
yes,
ground, the earth, which is, I don't have to be so strong, right? Because she's got me,
that's right. And so then
Yeah,
that's trust.
right. The trust. Hmm.
And so then maybe we don't talk about it here, but that would be something to think about. Even though you've had past lives about this, usually there's issues in this life that kind of jolted awake. And so there must have been some time early on when there was some trust issues, and you must have had to develop that inner strength to survive. And so if we were doing this in a more private way, I would say, let's kind of explore that too.
Oh, no, definitely. Yeah, I'm pretty public about that in my talks
Okay.
and everything with my family
Okay.
background, the
Okay.
dysfunctional family background, and the
Okay.
losing my family before I was 30 through all
Oh,
sorts of tragic circumstances, my mom, my dad, and my brother. So yes, I've had to kind of build up some armor there,
yes, the armor.
to protect. And that, I mean, that disbelief, I think, because I know there's that little girl in me
Mhm.
who believes. She
Yes.
believes unequivocally,
Yes.
absolutely,
Yes. Yes.
in the magic of life, in the magic of me,
Yes.
magic of everybody, right? And that, but the adult, the that
Yes.
has gone through these things,
Yes.
is a little skeptical, not very
Of course.
skeptical, a
It's
little
the culture
skeptical.
we were brought up
Yeah,
in. It's
yeah.
absolutely it. So
Interesting.
so for you, it's all these things. I would use some body, literally touching when
Oil.
you want to be, and when you
Mhm.
want to be intuitive, I would hold your heart like that. I would place your hand on your heart. Okay. Any kind of movement and maybe some affirmations that you are awakening, and you're calling back the child. It's the child who will lead. It's that softness that will lead to your higher development, I believe. She's the one that's waiting to break free again and to be able to sing and move like that and believe fully with everything, every fiber of her being. She's the one
Yes.
just waiting to literally break free. So,
Beautiful.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I do feel I do exercises where I will have an idea of her in, you have pictures of when you're a kid. One favorite
Mhm.
picture of me in little blonde hair with curls with a little red overall suit on, and I'm like 3 or something. And in my mind's eye, I will take her on my lap. That was a huge breakthrough for me in my healing. Was parenting her was not, I mean, I don't think we're taught to parent ourselves
Right.
as we get older. We
That's
we
right.
push that part of us aside.
Right.
So the reconnection and the reconnection, the heart connection back with my child, my little girl, to put her on my lap and hug her and say, I'm here for you. We're together. I'm not going to abandon you anymore. I'm sorry I abandoned you, but we're solid, kid. And now she's grown up. So the three of us, sometimes I'll still bring her back in with my 30 something or my 20 something self, and I'll bring that in with my parents too, and they will bring in their little kids, because then I forgive them because they were only doing what they
That's right.
were taught, and
Mhm.
reacting, and out of that. It's amazing what we have to go through in this lifetime.
No, beautiful though. Wow. That's all beautiful.
But I like this. Yeah, I will.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's almost like being more delicate with it,
Yes.
more gentle, like I would with my little girl.
Yes. Yes.
Right? To be
Yes.
tender and not like,
Yeah.
damn it, I want to get. fast track my intuition, with like forcing it. It's not going to happen if you force it.
Right. Joy will bring it.
Yes. Oh,
It, the
yes.
joy, that's
Yes.
the energy, that's the emotion that we're going for.
Yes.
Mhm.
Beautiful. That's great. That's beautiful. So, what else can you tell us about any other experiences that you've had with any of your other clients? Thank you, Kathleen, for that, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, so these kinds of things, you can, like I say, I help people understand that where their strengths are, with this kind of theory. And then from there, we do, like we really just did, we just kind of explore what their strengths are and then the different techniques that could be related to each of them. Even like somebody who's very math oriented, sometimes just sitting with a puzzle could be a way to calm themselves down, or crocheting or knitting because you're kind of counting, things like that. So everybody has a different way of getting in touch with themselves. And so I want people to know that if they've tried to meditate and that didn't work, there's many ways, and it's really about honoring yourself. And then by knowing yourself, there's a lot of things that you can do, and this theory is great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes. So, what you just said about meditation, that brought something up for me, is that myself included, when you are meditating, of course, your mind wants to, do this, do that. What am I going to have for dinner? What did I do
Mhm.
yesterday? All this crap goes through our minds. And so many people that I've met have said, "Oh, I can't meditate. My mind is too busy. I can't shut it off." And I keep saying, to myself too, hey, well, that's part of even experienced meditators, I think, have this issue too. It's not just people who are beginning. So can you speak into that? Like, how would you help
Yeah,
someone with
yeah,
that kind of a
that's
thought
great.
about themselves? Like it, because they'll hold themselves back from even trying.
That's absolutely right. Well, some people think that there's only one way to meditate, and that is to blank out your mind and not to think anything. That's only one type of meditation. There's other types. You can sit quietly and watch things go by, be unattached, it's actually an excellent practice in life to put yourself in the role of the observer. It sort
Excellent.
of
Yes.
gets yourself out of yourself. It gives you a different perspective and a higher perspective by watching yourself. And so you can learn to do that in a quiet space, just watching the thoughts. That can be very powerful, but you can watch yourself all during life, all during your day as well. But the thing for the person who says, "Oh, my mind won't stop, my mind won't stop," I would say to them, let's use your body, because when the body starts to calm down, usually the mind will follow. And so there's a bunch of body techniques that I really like. And one is you can breathe in. Breath is always usually part of these kinds of things. Breath is so important. So you could breathe in, really filling up your lungs. And then when you breathe out, you kind of relax just a little bit more. So you would breathe in, and then this time tense up when you're breathing in. And then when you breathe out, just let it go a little bit more. And we'll
That
do it
feels
one
even
last
better.
time. Yeah, just breathing in, kind of tense up, and breathe out. Okay. Just that alone could be helpful. Okay. You get a little loose. But then a little bit longer version of that is called progressive relaxation. And you can start at the top or start at the bottom. I like to start at the feet. And you imagine, even with your shoes on, that you're sort of curling in all 10 toes, both feet at the same time. And you're just tensing up your feet. Okay. So you're going to hold them like that. And you're focusing on your feet. You're focusing on how it feels. And then you relax them and yeah, wiggle them around a little bit. And then you go up to your calf muscles, the lower parts of both legs at the same time, and you tense them up, and you're feeling the tension there. And then you release that. And then you could go up to your thighs and tense and relax. And then I usually go up the back. I'll go like the lower, middle, and upper back all together, up and down the spine, and I'll tense that up and relax. I'll come in the front, maybe squinch up my tummy. Then I'll come up to my shoulders. Then I'll do my arms, then my fists. Then I'll go up to my neck and my face. And then I'll kind of look, is there any other place that needs to be tensed and relaxed? And so you do that, but much longer than what I just demonstrated there. But you do that. And as you're focusing on each body part, you really are tensing it up, not to hurt yourself, but a gentle tense.
Sure.
And then you really relax. And so you're focusing on that. So your mind has not thought about the other 20 million things that are going on. It's focusing on that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very visual. So guided meditation, I love. So what that means is you can get so many different kinds of free guided meditations over the internet.
Oh, so many. Oh,
so many different types. And you would listen to them, or you could make one yourself, talk it into some kind of recorder and play it back. You could do your own. And then you listen. So you have a journey you could take. Somebody's guiding you through it, And so that meditation, so for the people who say, I can't do it, those are the techniques that I would recommend them to start out with, because I think they're usually very successful like that.
Yes, no, and absolutely getting into the body.
Yes,
That's what the work I do with the body, connecting the voice to the body, and getting people grounded in their bodies. And like you say, there's so much more going on there than we know. With all of the I don't know, all of the talking that we do in our head. I think that it's so living from the neck up.
Yes, agree.
So to speak, and we feel we are in this vehicle. We're in this vehicle, but we're not connected to it. Most of us are just, it's like it's a car. Our body is not a car. It is not a car. It's not like you can replace a part here and there. I mean, I know that's the way, people look at it, but it's a sacred vessel for our soul.
Absolutely. Yes. And we have to honor that when, again, we talk about high vibes and everything's frequency. We have to honor this body by making sure that what we put in it in terms of food and the water, that it's the highest vibe we can have, that the environments that we're in that are impacting the body from the outside are the highest vibes that it can live in, that our emotions and our thoughts at most times are the highest they can be, because that will keep the body processing freely and keep it the healthiest it can be by being in those kind of high vibe environments, internally and externally.
Yes. Beautiful. I could definitely see how that would be, this particular theory would be so helpful. Yeah. I mean, is that something that they're going to be sharing with?
I hope so. Many teachers do know about this theory. It's a psychological theory, but it's been applied in education. There are actually some schools have adopted it so much that they've built their school structure around it.
Oh, so thank God.
There's different types of environments for the kids to interact in, so that the kids who learn best over here will do this, or they'll incorporate one lesson and they'll do it many different ways,
Yes,
so
excellent,
yes.
excellent.
Yes.
Like the charter school. I think the charter
those
school
kinds of things. Yes.
in our area does that.
And many people do know about this and have incorporated it into their schoolrooms. And it's so important to honor, for a person who learns with their body, telling them to sit still is one of the worst things. I advise parents, if they've got one of those types of kids, to invest in Nerf balls, so that the kid can throw the ball against the wall while they're studying because they
Right.
kind of need to move around, you
Right. They
know.
do need to move around. As a voice teacher, I taught, a couple of young teenagers, like around 12, 11, and even at that age, they're singing and they're moving all around while they're singing. They're kicking, doing high kicks.
Oh,
I was like, okay, before I knew better, I would try to tell them to try to focus on their body, go
yeah,
be still.
yeah,
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
not
No,
for them.
that I learned that was not the thing to do. And I would make exercises, specific physical movements for them to do while they were singing. And that works so much better
Oh,
for them.
I love that.
Yes, absolutely. And then
Don't you?
they would love it. They loved it. And I had these big exercise balls I would play with, and they'd bounce on the balls, and they'd
Yes,
move the balls and catch them and throw them up and catch
yes.
them while they were
So you
singing.
intuitively
Yes,
got
intuitively.
this.
Yes. And
Yes.
rubber bands, the yoga bands they love too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really a huge breakthrough for me and for my students, and it was so much fun to help them
Yes.
with that and to, think of ways to facilitate them to learn and to be able to incorporate that movement. Yeah,
Oh, I
movement's
love
so
that.
so important.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it was great. But what I think about too is the kids who are on the spectrum. I do have two grandchildren who are on the spectrum,
Mm.
and you can tell they're in there. They're a soul on a journey, souls on a journey too, and they are just as intelligent as we are. It's just being, it's just coming out in a different way. It just shows itself in a different way because I know the one who's now 17, very difficult to have any kind of relationship with him for so long as a child, but now he's a young man, and my gosh, his intelligence is staggering to me. I mean, he's so amazing on the computer, amazing, not the way everybody else is, but amazing nonetheless. So I'm sure that this theory again would absolutely be of value and very applicable for training kids with special needs too.
Yes, yes. And I think even beyond the theory is one question that really has to be asked is, who are you? You know, you look at the child and you say, who are you? You know, and you help them be that. And everybody's different, and really to honor that. And so, how can we help them be all that they can be in the way that they can do it? And so, just that respect for that, you know. And my understanding now, I don't know, but this is what I hear, is that there's a lot of children coming in now that have different than when we were young. They have different abilities, they think differently, they see the world differently, they interact differently. And you know, maybe the adults are having a hard time because it's not how we were brought up, you know. But just to honestly go in and say, who are you? You
Yes.
know, and just like you want to talk to your tree, you know, and get in touch with them, who are you to this child? You know,
Mhm.
and then be as creative and intuitive as an adult as you can to help them grow into being your 17-year-old, where they've gotten through the difficult parts and now they're blossoming in the way that's good for them.
Yes. But absolutely, without judgment or putting them in a box,
Exactly.
labeling as special needs or
Yes.
autistic.
Yes.
I think that that's so damaging because who honestly, who are we to say that these children aren't what they should be?
Yes.
Who are we to say that?
Yes.
They're
Well,
different. That we do know that much. They are
yes.
different. And I know, like I've heard that too, that a lot of children, young kids are coming in who are highly, highly intuitive now.
And again, I mentioned just briefly, I do believe that we're at this time of transition or awakening or a heightening of frequencies for all humanity. And so there's a lot of things that are going to be falling apart. A lot of institutions that were built on the old energies aren't going to make it. And so we're going to have to be creative and build up new uh, things that we actually want, and that will be better. But the kids coming in are vibrating at a different level, because the energy itself is different. They're coming in differently, and the energy they're in is different, and so they're here for the future. They're here for the future. And so again, I think it's our place as adults to honor that. And it takes work on our part to figure out, how do we raise them, how do they learn, what's the best teaching methods, but to just, like you're saying, keep being open and respecting that it's not about the box anymore.
No, no, it's definitely not. I think it's just it's almost like an old human, maybe not old, but like an overlay uh, um, to judge
Mhm.
others,
Yeah.
So that's something, it's like an archetype, right?
Yes,
To
yes.
the judgment. And, but it's very, it's quite an awareness raising opportunity for my husband and myself
Mhm.
to and his daughter to have these two children in our lives, and they're beautiful.
Mhm.
They're just beautiful as they are. So it's, I know that that's a lot of people are struggling right now. A lot of parents are struggling because for whatever reason it seems like there are a lot more of these children,
Yeah,
who are on the spectrum, so to speak. Yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
like you say, they have a lot to teach us, I think.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Yes, yes. This is wonderful, wonderful speaking to you, Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there
Thank you.
anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to thank you, Ruth. Thank you for, watching your journey as well. I love it. You're a model for me, and what you're doing. And, your honesty, your integrity, you really truly want to be the best you can be. And I love watching that in you, your path. So it's an honor to know you. And thank you for this interview. And I look forward to future chats with you.
Absolutely. And we are going to, we had a couple topics that we could have talked about tonight, and they seemed like each one of those could be a video unto itself. So definitely going to explore one of my most favorite topics, the UAP UFO
Yeah.
phenomenon. Yay! And what I also want to say is that you have a presentation on the private, secret, beautiful life of chickens, right? And I love that. I just love that because I grew up with Rhode Island Reds, a dozen Rhode Island Reds. And I can do a really mean chicken, but I'm not going to do that here, okay? Don't worry. But
Really? A vocalization?
oh yeah, oh yeah, yep.
Oh,
Yep,
I
because
have to hear
I
that.
was able to model it because I grew up with the chickens, It
Yes.
was so funny. They were great. My dad wanted chickens. So, but yeah, there's that. And then there was something else. I can't remember what else was it we were going to talk about. There was a third video.
Maybe just getting in touch with the body and what the body is communicating, the
Oh,
different
yes.
chakras of the body,
Oh,
and
yes.
that. Mhm,
Mhm,
mhm.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Because that's what I'm all about. You'll see on my channel, I do a lot of that. That's part of my course, is connecting to the body. So yes, let's do it. So those two are coming up for sure. So please look out for those. And I will have Kathleen's information to our viewers. I will have her information where you can get in touch with her or see her work. I'm pretty sure she also does these presentations virtually as well. Is that not correct?
Yes,
Right.
yes. So I'm reaching a much wider audience these days because we can do this virtually on Zoom, which I love. And so when you give out my website, I have a list of my upcoming programs. Some of them are in person, but then there's a bunch that are virtually that are through my community college. I teach through the community college online with Zoom, but I also have my own classes. So you can look down my topics and my events coming up and, contact me and we can get you scheduled and, we can learn some
Wonderful.
stuff.
Wonderful. Fabulous. Kathleen, thank you so much again for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us this evening.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you so much.